After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the nature of reality, learn about the ontology and epistemology, learn about various paradigms in research of qualitative data, evaluate the paradigms with each other. The nature of reality has been a central question in philosophy and psychology. Reality refers to the state of things that actually exist, opposed to something which does not exist or is imagined to appear. The nature of reality is best understood with respect to the concept of ontology and epistemology. Any research in the field of psychology is done by keeping in mind the ontology, epistemology, and methodology. These three concepts form an important base for most researchers that seeks to explain the nature of reality in their own way. Qualitative research aims to address questions concerned with developing an understanding of the meaning and experience dimensions of humans' life and social world. Central to good qualitative research is whether the research participants' subjective meanings, actions, and social context as understood by them are illuminated. Psychiatrists and other mental health practitioners need to be knowledgeable across the multiple paradigms and perspectives that inform an understanding of the biological, psychological, social, cultural, ethical, and political dimension of human life. In research contexts, the researchers adapt certain world views to generate world views called paradigms. The idea of paradigm was given by Thomas Kuhn in 1917. It is a basic orientation of theory and research. It is described as a world view or a set of ideas used by a group of researchers to generate knowledge. It includes the basic assumptions, research strategies, and other ideas shared among the group of researchers. Social science research is based on different paradigms. The three major research paradigms described here are the positivist paradigm and the interpretive paradigm, and the last is critical paradigm. Each of these three approaches represents a different perception of looking at the social world and the individuals in their social context. Each paradigm has a different set of assumptions, procedures, and strategies of collecting and analyzing data. Ontology. Ontology and epistemology are two aspects of the branch of philosophy called metaphysics. These two terms often put students off philosophy for life. Metaphysics is concerned with two fundamental questions. First, what are the characteristics of existence? This is an ontological question. Second aspect of metaphysics is the question, how can we know the things that exist? This is an epistemological question. Unfortunately, these definitions are too abstract and ephemeral to be much used when the concepts are new to you. The word ontology is used to refer to philosophical investigation of existence or being. Such investigation may be directed toward the concept of being, asking what being means or what it is for something to exist. Ontology is concerned with the nature of reality. It is concerned with the questions such as what are the characteristics of things that exist, what can be known about it, how things really are, and how they work. Since ontology is concerned about the nature of our existence or being, there are different ontological positions which influence our perception about what is real and what is not. The most important aspect of ontology are objectivism or positivism and subjectivism or interpretivism. A materialist position is more closely related to objectivism, where it is believed that all that is real in the material or physical world and any social phenomena that occurs is independent of the social actors. For example, someone who takes a materialistic ontological position, example, all that is real is the physical or material world, would reject the idea that ghosts or spirits can influence the physical world. Why? because ghosts cannot exist if all that is real is physical. Materialism is one of the major ontological positions and is the foundation for much of the research conducted in the natural sciences. However, a competing view of reality is idealism, which proposes that reality is mental and spiritual rather than material. Subjectivism believes that any social phenomena is created based on the perception and action of the social actors. Thus, it is the human being who create reality based on their perception and experiences. Proponents of that position assert that perception, what we perceive through our senses, creates a reality and there is no other reality than what is in our heads. That is, there is no reality other than what humans create in their own minds. From this, it can be inferred that different ontological positions can lead to very different way of dealing with and understanding any issue. Thus, identification of the ontological position at the starting of the research is extremely important for any researcher because based on this they decide the researcher paradigm or design. For example, a choice of objective ontology would lead to a positivist epistemology using a deductive approach and quantitative methodology would be applied. Similarly, for subjective ontology, an interpretive paradigm would be applied and all inductive approach will be followed, leading to a qualitative analysis of the data. Now, epistemology. The term epistemology is derived from the Greek word epistem, meaning knowledge. It is concerned with what we can know about reality and how we can know it. It seeks to find out the relationship between the knower and the known. So, basically it is concerned with the sources, the extent, the possibilities, the legitimacy and the nature of knowledge. Over the course of philosophy, rarely has the philosopher concentrated on all of these issues. Rather, most of the philosophers have concentrated only on one or two of these issues with the exclusion of the others. There is a vast array of views about those topics, but one virtually universal presumption is that knowledge is true belief, but not mere true belief. For example, lucky guesses or true beliefs resulting from wishful thinking are not knowledge. Thus, a central question in epistemology is what must be added to true beliefs to convert them into knowledge. Some epistemological questions are: what is knowledge? What is the correct analysis or definition of the concept of knowledge? What is the extent of our knowledge? About what sort of thing is knowledge actually held? What are the sources of knowledge? How can we acquire it? Can I be sure of knowledge? Is there any genuine knowledge? Concern with the first question has predominated psychology since its inception. Though this concern is as old as antiquity in philosophy, Plato was the first person to address the second question, and this attention has continued uninterrupted in the present day. The third question was also important in antiquity, but has also been a central focus of epistemological discussion through the medieval and early modern periods. The fourth question raises the issue of skepticism, which is questioning or raising doubts about the unempirical knowledge or beliefs and opinions that are stated as facts. Paradigms in research. According to Fosse et al., in a research context, the term paradigm describes a system of ideas or worldviews used by a community of researchers to generate knowledge. It is a set of assumptions, research strategies, and criteria for rigor that are shared, even taken for granted, by that community. There are three principal research paradigms. First, logical positivism. Second, interpretive paradigm. And third, critical paradigm. They represent different ways of looking at reality, which involves choosing different approaches to observe and measure the phenomena of interest. Positivist paradigm. Positivism as a school of thought emerged during the 17th century, and it was established by French philosopher Auguste Comte. He believed that the society had passed through three stages of explanation. First stage was theological explanation, which dominated the society for a long time. The second was a more enlightened stage, metaphysical or philosophical explanation, and then came positivism, considered to be superior to all. According to Comte, the only thing of which we could be absolutely sure of is one which is observable and measurable, and since the data of the natural sciences, that is chemistry, biology, physics, is publicly observed, it should be trusted. He argued that the methods that were so successful in the natural sciences should also be applied to human sciences. He advocated the use of scientific methods to validate theories of human behavior. Scientifically speaking, all isolated empirical observation is idle and even radical uncertain. Science can use only those observations which are connected, at least hypothetically, with some law, that is such a connection which makes the chief difference between scientific and popular observation, embracing the same facts but contemplating them from different point of views, and that observations empirically conducted can at most supply provisional materials which most usually undergo an ulterior revision. The observer would not know that he ought to look in the facts before his eyes, but for the guidance of a preparatory theory. This is undisputed with regard to astronomical, physical, chemical research, and in every branch of biological study. Carrying on the analogy, it is evident that in the corresponding division of social sciences, there is more need than anywhere else of theories which shall be scientifically connect the facts that are happening with those that have happened. Thus, the idea of positivist paradigm is based on the positivist school of thought. The positive social science researchers seek quantitative analysis of the data and prefer rigorous and exact measurement in their objective research. The researcher usually begin with the cause and effect relationship which they aim to prove applying a deductive approach which would lead to discovery of laws of behavior which will enable prediction and control of behavior. Thus, their explanation is nomothetic. The framework is very rigid and therefore they assume that social reality consists of stable and pre-existing pattern. They make generalization in a value-free context. Thus, social relations are seen as facts that are objectively analyzed using precise quantitative methods such as experiments, surveys, and statistics. The replication of the result is considered to be extremely important, and it is related to empirical analytical approach, a hard paradigm of research. The values, emotions, beliefs, or anything subjective is completely discarded. The research carried out by positivists is objective and free from personal biases that may affect the research results. The researcher's voice is considered to be superior than the participants. The researcher is more important figure and the inquiry of the information is a one-way process. The positivist paradigm, however, has been criticized on several grounds. The logical positivism has been criticized for its reductionism, that the processes are reducible to physiological, physical or chemical events, and social processes are reducible to relationships between action and individuals. It considers the human being to be passive and puppets in the hand of the environment. Positivism ignored the role of observer in the constitution of social reality and thereby failed to consider the historical and social condition affecting the representation of social ideas. Positivism has been criticized for its extractive nature, whereby the participants are mined to collect data with no benefits to them. We'll come to interpretive paradigm. The interpretive paradigm has its theoretical roots in hermeneutic, phenomenology, and symbolic interactionism. The qualitative research methodologies are based on interpretive research paradigm. This paradigm believes that we should conduct research to comprehend social life and describe how people construct social meaning. It seeks to understand the meaning of human actions and experiences and generate accounts of those meanings from the viewpoint of those involved in the research. This approach to social sciences research rejects the positivist idea that the same research method can be used to study human behavior as are successfully used in the field as chemistry and physics. Interpretive argues that when you study the behavior of a metal, the primary cause of changes in the metal are in the environment. For example, heat, stress. Humans behave the way they do in part because of their environment. However, that influence is not direct as it is with a piece of metal. Humans are also influenced by their subjective perception of their environment, their subjective realities. We do not worry about the subjective impression of a steel bar, but if we are to fully understand the behavior of an 18-year-old delinquent, we must understand her view of the world around her. We must also understand the subjective perception of her by others in her social and cultural context. Thus, for the interpreters, what the world means to the person or group being studied is critically important to a good research in the social sciences. The most prominent interpretive methodologies in psychiatric research are ethnography, phenomenology, and narrative approaches, each of which addresses the issues of meaning from a different standpoint. For example, ethnography describes the meaning of a phenomena on the basis of its particular societal and cultural context and explore the way in which the phenomena has been constituted within a community or collective members over time. Phenomenological researchers, on the other hand, study the ordinary life world. They are interested in the way people experience their world, what it is like for them, and how best to understand their experiences. So, ethnography acknowledges the communities that are comprised of person, each of whom has his or her own subjective experiences, and phenomenology acknowledges that a person's life world is a social, cultural, and historical product as well as a pole of individual subjectivity. Thus, interpretive approach seeks to comprehend the meaning of human action and experiences irrespective of their individual or collective origins. Critical paradigm. Critical paradigm is a research tradition developed most notably by Horkheimer, Adorno, and Marcus. The critical paradigm advocates becoming aware of how our thinking is socially and historically constructed and how these limits our actions in order to challenge these learned restrictions. It emphasizes on the social and historical origins and context of the meaning of the human experience and actions, whether they are manifested in the individual or in the collective form. The philosophical roots of critical paradigm lie in the social, political, and emancipatory traditions like psychoanalytical, feminist, and Marxist traditions in which knowledge is acquired through critical discourse and debate. The research is conducted to uncover the hidden truth, myth that account for social relation and empower people to bring in radical changes in the society. It focuses on the critique and transformation of current structure, relationship, and condition that shape the constraints the development of social practices in organization and communities through examining them within their historical, social, cultural, and political context. Consequently, inquiry is only for understanding the phenomena under study, but is also used as a tool in the ongoing process of practical transformation of society. It is a groundbreaking alternative to mainstream positive science as it offers evidence based on people-based experimentation and inquiry, which is lacking in positivist research. Critical researchers believe that social reality is multi-layered in the sense that social events and relations are based on hidden underlying structures, forces that evolve in a historical context. Thus, critical approach is directed towards how the society came to be configured at some point in time. This is reality created and shaped by social, political, cultural, economic, ethnic, gender-based forces that have been refined or crystallized over time into social structures that are taken to be natural or real. People, including researchers, function under the assumption that for all practical purposes these structures are real. Critical theorists believe this assumption is inappropriate. It seeks improved understanding of society by integrating all the major social sciences including geography, economics, sociology, history, political science, anthropology, and psychology. The critical researchers see human being as creative, adaptive human being with an unrealized potential and who are caught by social forces that disempower or exploit them. They consider common sense as a false belief that guides human actions and contains myths that hide unequal distribution of power and objective resources conditions. Critical paradigm explains social reality by criticizing the underlying structure of social condition and help people see the way to a better world. A true explanation theory of social reality is a source that helps people to understand their own experiences in the historical context and help them change their social condition or the social world. Critical social theory is thus a form of self-reflective knowledge involving both understanding and theoretical explanation, which aim to reduce entrapment in system of domination or dependence. The implication for methodologies informed by this perspective is that they aim to foster self-reflection, mutual learning, participation, and empowerment rather than acceptance of discoveries. This reflective dialogue allows the researcher and the participants to question the natural state and change the mechanism for order maintenance. This is a way to reclaim conflict and tension. According to this paradigm, good evidence is informed by the theory about what the social is like and the unveils myth and hidden truths. Summary: the nature of reality has been a central question in philosophy and psychology. Reality refers to the state of things that actually exist, opposed to something which does not exist or is imagined to appear. The nature of reality is best understood with respect to the concept of ontology and epistemology. They form the basis of various paradigms or worldviews that researchers adopt to understand the meaning and experiences dimension of human life and social worlds. Ontology is concerned with the nature of reality. It is concerned with the questions such as what are the characteristics of things that exist, what can be known about it, and how things really are and how they work. Epistemology is concerned with what we can know about reality and how can we know it. It seeks to find out the relationship between the knower and the known. So basically, it is concerned with the sources and the extent and the possibilities and the legitimacy and the nature of the knowledge. The term paradigm describes a system of ideas or worldviews used by a community of researchers to generate knowledge. It is a set of assumptions, research strategies, and criteria for rigor that are shared, even taken for granted, by that community. There are three principal research paradigms: logical positivism, interpretive paradigm, and critical paradigm. Positivism as a school of thought emerged during 17th century and it was established by French philosopher Auguste Comte. It said that information derived from logical and mathematical treatment and report of sensory experiences are only valid knowledge. The positivist social science researchers seeks quantitative analysis of the data and prefer rigorous and exact measurement in their objective research. The researchers usually begins with the cause and effect relationship, which they aim to prove applying a deductive approach which would lead to the discovery of laws of behavior which will enable prediction and control of behavior. Logical positivism grew out of positivism as an approach to research to solve the problems posed by it. It said that only that which can be directly observed and validated by more than one observer can be dealt with scientifically. The interpretive paradigm has its theoretical roots in hermeneutic, phenomenology, and symbolic interactionism. The qualitative research methodology are based on interpretive research paradigm. This paradigm believes that we should conduct research to comprehend social life and describe how people construct social meaning. It seeks to understand the meaning, human actions and experiences and generate accounts of those meaning from the viewpoint of those involved in the research. Critical paradigm is a research tradition developed most notably by Horkheimer, Adorno, and Marcus. It emphasizes on the social historical origin and context of the meaning of human experiences and actions, whether they are manifested in the individual or in the collective form. The philosophical root of critical paradigm lie in the socio-political and emancipatory traditions like psychoanalytical, feminist, and Marxist tradition, in which knowledge is acquired through critical discourse and debate.